You've been called a traitor. It's been said that you should be locked up. Some of this went very high up in our government.
Even the president himself had called on me to be arrested and tried for treason, potentially executed.
To hear that the president of the United States, when he loses the election in Michigan, decides that the way to deal with that is to accuse you of treason, to ask, isn't there some way to arrest her?
We should stop expecting that there is a bottom to the lengths that people will go to overturn legitimate election results and seize power in our country.
Michigan Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson was now speaking out about what she had heard Donald Trump had been saying about her as far as her stance when it comes to certifying the 2020 election, which of course he still continues to say was stolen from him. So of course, since she's the Secretary of State in Michigan, he thoughts about how she was a traitor for not doing the wrong thing. And you know what he would like to do with traitors? Execute them. She heard about this and she's speaking out about it. Now here's some more details from that. So Benson, she's a Democrat, and she revealed the alleged remark for the first time in an interview, as you saw there with NBC News. She said she learned it from a source familiar with Trump's White House meeting. She goes, it was surreal and I felt sad in recalling that her reaction when she first heard about this. She also continued on and said it certainly amplified the heightened sense of anxiety, stress, and uncertainty of that time, which I still feel in many ways, because it showed there's no bottom to how far Trump and his supporters were willing to stoop to overturn or discredit a legitimate election. So Trump's spokesperson responded to this whole thing, and you won't be surprised at the way he spoke about this. So reach for comment, Trump spokesperson Taylor Budowich said, I have it on good authority that Secretary Benson knowingly lied throughout her interview with NBC News. Okay, that's it, it's over.
Oh, okay.
Trump's spokesperson said that he has a good feeling that she lied throughout the interview. Okay, I guess that's it. Now, as far as this whole thing with him saying that she should be executed, she's a traitor, it's not the only way that she was harassed or honestly confronted about her real stance when it comes to this election. So more on this. On the first Sunday in December of 2020, weeks after the election, she was looking forward to a quiet night with her family. They planned to hang Christmas decorations, then watch How the Grinch Stole Christmas. But just as her 4-year-old son was settling in for the movie, a crowd of armed protesters showed up outside of her home chanting traitor and murderer for her insistence on certifying Biden's electoral victory. And that's according to videos posted on social media. NBC News is reporting that as well. Now, on top of this as well, we all know Trump is endorsing people that are gonna continue to push his big lie and continue to say that things were stolen from him, and hopefully replace people like the Secretary of State in Michigan that can certify the reality of these elections. So he's endorsed this woman.
Our election cycle in 2020 has been a robbery. Secretary of State is the one that should be under investigation. She should be going to jail.
It's Katrina Karamo there speaking about it. She's looking to take her spot.
Yeah, so if you want to be endorsed by Donald Trump, just declare you're a public lunatic, and she'll be like, oh, great, and say, I will lie for you no matter what. Whatever heinous plot you're concocting, and I hate democracy, he'll instantly endorse you. Okay, so look guys, this is scary times. We even debated whether we should do this story or not because it has become so commonplace for the right wing to threaten to murder their opponents. And remember, 40% of Republicans say that it might be time for violence, political violence against their opponents. Remember, Michigan, the same state, is the place where the right wing group tried to kidnap and murder the governor, who's a Democrat. So we just had a shooting in Buffalo. Guy wrote a 180-page manifesto saying, "I'm doing it because I hate black people, and I believe in the replacement theory, and I hate all immigrants and all non-white people." So the violence is coming over and over and over again. And in this particular case, it's not at all surprising. Because remember, the one chant as they were breaking into the Capitol on January 6th was, hang Mike Pence, hang Mike Pence. And by the way, he's Donald Trump's vice president. But why did they get the idea to, of all people, kill, murder, execute their own vice president? Because Trump kept saying Mike Pence could make all the difference, and he's choosing not to. He's choosing not to. And he portrayed him as a traitor. And so the people who broke into the building thought, we got to go get the traitor and execute him. And then he threatens her. Oh yeah, if you don't change the election results, I'm going to call you a traitor. And then the protesters show up at her house. By the way, Supreme Court does a right-wing ruling, and instantly they pass like legislation, bills, etc. You're not allowed to protest anywhere near the beloved right wing. They threaten to kill her. Nah, don't worry about it. No problem. Freedom of speech. So you see the hypocrisy.
Yeah, and the scary part about it is like we're at the phase. We already have brown shirts running around in the United States. They're just building the brown shirt army. That is like the phase that we are at, because we need to understand the fascists don't come into power popularly, right? Like it's not a matter of popularity to them. It's a matter of just direct violence against their political opponents to make people too scared to do anything against them, or to literally just violently get rid of their, political opponents by like murdering them or wrongfully jailing them, whatever. And so like we're at the phase now where people that are saying the same things as the Republican politicians, people are saying the same things as people like Donald Trump, are running around committing acts of terrorism and violence, and they're doing so in increasingly organized ways. They're forming mobs outside of people's house where they're armed, right? And then the point where you're like, if you're outside somebody's house and you're just having a picnic and you're protesting, right? It's a little bit different if you bring a gun, isn't it? Right? It's a little bit different if you're bringing a gun. I think we all understand that makes a giant difference in whether or not that is a protest or whether or not that is a threat. And so like the reality is that is the phase that we're at right now, where these Republicans are seemingly banking on not necessarily being popular, right? And they're using their unpopularity as proof, as some sort of conspiracy against them. So if they do lose an election, then that just proves the election was rigged against them. And then they incite violent mobs to terrorize these elected officials. And meanwhile, the Democrats are just, they're still talking about how they want a strong Republican Party, right? They're playing such different games. It's like the Democrats they're just not living in reality. They're just not living in reality and seeing what is like visibly on the ground. But now you have Secretary of States from different states that are like, hey, do you see what's going on? Do you see what's like literally happening here at the state level? And it's really just terrifying.
But you know what's weird is also the governor of Michigan had that plot come against her, which they did break up, of that small militia out there that said they're gonna kidnap her, and they had this whole plan of how they're gonna tie her up, film it, and execute her. Now, when it came to them, these guys are terrorists. And I'm sure maybe even some folks in the Republican Party were like, we don't wanna be associated with this type of plot. But when it comes to the former president then saying, hey, I don't like that she didn't come on board with my election lies, so therefore she's a traitor to the country. Remember, every time Donald Trump talked about the country, the people, the military, the voting, anything, and he said, they're turning against America, substitute America for Donald Trump. That's who he was talking about. And that's why this entire, now again, also his talk about election fraud and how we need to do something about it separately. That's why you had, even when there was gubernatorial races in California, before those were over, they're talking about how this race is gonna be stolen. What are we gonna do once it's stolen? It's turned into this playbook now to radicalize people and then flip it to this level of anger and violence that you must now go out and commit the violence before it comes for you. Madison Carlton was one of the people who said it all the time. He goes, we need to raise our children like monsters. They're coming for us. I don't really want a civil war, but they're gonna come and get us anyway. So I think I don't want to take up arms against my fellow American, but I think I might have to. This is the playbook, and we're watching it. But are enough people believing what we're seeing?
Yeah, and by the way, the shooter in Buffalo also wrote about it in his manifesto. You don't have to kill everyone, he said. You just have to kill enough to intimidate the rest, which is brown shirt 101. That is exactly what they did in Germany. And finally, to Ben's point, they all claim, and to JR's point too, like, oh, the Democrats are gonna come to get you. Biden doesn't even wanna criticize Republicans by using the word Republican. They focus grouped it for like 6 months and came up with ultra MAGA because it broke his heart to criticize Republicans. By the way, also same exact thing in Germany, where the Weimar Republic, the opponents of the Nazis, were super weak, pathetically weak, and didn't understand the dangers that they were in. Then the violence began and they instantly got intimidated, and boom, they took over the country while they only had about a third of the country voting for them. Same playbook, you're seeing it here. Threatening to execute politicians you don't agree with, including your own vice president. I mean, Trump didn't physically say that, but his rioters definitely said it. There's no question. Remember they brought the noose They set up a whole stand. They had the zip ties. They were all ready, and they chanted, "Hang Mike Pence, hang Mike Pence." And Trump, to this day, says they were patriots. No, this is a super dangerous situation that America finds itself in, and it's not prepared. The opposition is pathetic. They're gonna steamroll them, and the media is barely like figuring it out. They're like, I don't know. I used to say 50-50. I mean, maybe it's 55-45 now. No, it's not. This is really dangerous.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. I really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.